गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् ॐ महागणाधिपतये नमः। Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Welcome to this 14th session of Vivekachudamani. Today we are going to start with Mahavakya Vichara, proceed to Brahma Bhavana, and then go to Jivan Mukta Lakshana in the next set of shlokas. Before that, Dr. Anupama will give us a quick recap of previous class. Over to you, madam.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, a recap of verses 73 to 78. We are now in the process of understanding Tat Tvam Asi. We have taken two steps. First, Padavichara. Here, Tvam, the Jivatma, was understood by Pancha Kosha Vichara. Then, Tat, the Paramatma, by Karya Karana Sambandha. By negating the non-substantial karya, the effect, we understood the meaning of Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. The next step was Vakya Vichara. Here, by using Shruti, Smriti, and Yukti as pramanas, we understood that Anatma, that is, the world and my body-mind complex, does not have an existence independent of Atma or Brahma. Now, if the world and my body-mind complex is mithya, why do I experience them as real? Shankaracharya says, Brahmena or Mrisha, meaning confusion, mistaking the substance to be the name and form. The example given here was Guna Ahivat, that is, mistaking the rope to be a snake. So, when we say, this is a snake, the sentence has two parts. This is refers to the rope, the Samanya Amsha, which is real or subtle, and the snake refers to the Vishesha Amsha, which is unreal or asatya. We know that light or knowledge negates only the unreal asat and not the real satya. Can we perceive or infer the great equation Tatutvam Asi? Shankaracharya says no. Brahmatmanoho ekatvam shrutiya samyag pratipadyate muhuhu, meaning the oneness of Paramatma and Jivatma is revealed only through Veda Pramana or Shruti, clearly and repeatedly. We have to raise ourselves to the level of the Shrutis to understand the Mahavakyas. Perceptually, Jivatma and Paramatma are diagonally opposite. What is the cause of this diagonally opposite appearance of Jivatma and Paramatma? The Upadhi, that which seemingly transfers its attributes to a nearby object. These attributes are so predominant in our minds that we overlook the essential oneness, the consciousness in all beings. It is this Upadhi which creates diversity characteristics. The examples given were the glowworm and the sun, the servant and the king, the well in the ocean, the atom, and Mount Everest. Let's analyze further. Ishwarasya upadhi maya bhavati. Maya is the creative power of Ishvara. Jivasya upadhi panchakosha bhavati. The body-mind complex is the attribute of Jiva. Consciousness is the intrinsic nature, swabhavika dharma. We now have three entities, Maya, the Panchakosha, and consciousness. How do we resolve this triad of consciousness and two upadhis, knowing that Maya and Panchakosha are both diagonally opposite? We equate two seemingly opposite entities by using Bhaaga Tyaaga Lakshana, that is, the secondary or implied meaning called Lakshyartha. We know that Jivatma is consciousness with inferior attributes and Paramatma is consciousness but with superior attributes. By negating the differing attributes, that is, the incidental or upadhi called aghantuka dharma or the conditioning extrinsic factors, and equating the consciousness, the intrinsic nature of both, we understand that Tat Paramatma is none other then Tvam Jivatma. Shankaracharya says, Kinchid Esha Upadi na Vastavaha, meaning this Maya and Panchakosha are Mithya. They are just Upadis. They do not have an existence in the Paramarthika plane. When we negate the Upadis, Samyak Nirase, by Bhaaga Tyaaga Nyaya, what remains is Na Paraha, Na Jiva. Only pure consciousness remains as Ekam, Evam, Advitiyam. How do we differentiate Satya from Mithya? Shankaracharya says, Ittam Drishyam Vyapoha. That means negate all the objectifiable, differentiating attributes between Jiva and Ishvara. Tayoho Eka Bhavaha Nyayaha. Own up the oneness of Jiva and Ishvara. This is the meaning of Yat Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Svatmana Mevadvayam. Do these attributes disappear? No. This technique of Bhagatyaga Nyaya is purely intellectual. One continues to perceive the world as before, only with the conviction that it's of a lesser order of reality. The attitude now is Aham Satyam Jagat Mithya. The Aham here is Stula Sukshma Karana Sharira Vyatirikta, Panchakosha Vilakshana, Avastatraya Sakshi, Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. To arrive at this total oneness of Jiva and Ishvara, described here as Akhanda Eka Rasatvam, we now focus on Shuddha Chaitanya Rupa Jiva and Ishvara, attribute free Jiva and Ishvara. Remember, all attributes, good and bad, are just impurities. Krishna says, Sarva Dharmanapi Parityajya, Tata Vidwan Punya Papa Vidhuya. When we understand the Lakshyartha clearly, we see Tayoho Akanda Eka Rasatva Siddhaye, total freedom from all distinctions between Jiva and Ishvara. By Bheda Brahmatyaga, we drop the notion that we were ever different. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anupama, for a nice recap of the last 6 verses that we studied in the last week, which dealt with the problem of the topic of Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. Om Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. Once Swami Paramarthananda Ji was asked this question, what is spiritual enlightenment? And this was his answer. He is not in favor of using terms which have an ambiguous meaning. He says both these words, spiritual and enlightenment, mean different things to different people. So he says, let us first have a little clarity by what do you mean by enlightenment. He said we should replace both these words with something which we can clearly relate to. Our scriptures say that ignorance is the cause of all our problems. Remember in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, this concluding line says, Ajnane na avritam pena muhyanti jantavaha. Jantavaha means all beings like us. Why are we suffering? For only one reason. Although we are Parabrahma Paramatma, although we are divine beings, this divinity in us, this essential nature in us is avritam, is concealed, it is covered. We are not able to see it because of ajnana or ignorance. Ignorance is the cause of all our problems, says the Bhagavad Gita and the scriptures. And this is one of the important aspects of all Vedanta. If ignorance is the problem, what is the solution to the problem? Address the ignorance through right knowledge. And that is our own approach. And therefore, he says, what are the terms that we can now change to? We now need to change enlightenment to knowledge and the word spiritual to Vedanta. Now, if these two terms are clear, now we know that all our problems are because of ignorance. The solution would be through Vedantic knowledge. And Vedantic knowledge is similar to spiritual enlightenment. What is the sum and essence of all Vedanta? All Vedanta, it has to be summarized in half a shloka Adi Shankara has given us as Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. And if you want to resolve this further, Aham Satyam, Jagan Mithya. The real conclusion comes from the declaration that I am the only reality and whatever I experience is of a lower order of reality. The whole of the Vivekachudamani has been a very systematic analysis for us to come to this term to help us to be able to claim our reality that I am the only reality. That means I manifest Brahman in and through everything that I do. I experience Brahman in and through everything that I do. And therefore, the experiencer in me is of a higher order of reality. And whatever I experience is none other than me as a manifest reality. Now, there are three issues here. Brahma Satyam may be easy to understand. That means there is one infinite divine principle which is all-pervading. But to say Brahman is the only Satyam, that means everything else, including my body and mind, is Mithya, that is difficult. That is where we need Guru Shastra Upadesha to say not only Brahman is Satyam, this whole world, including my body and mind. That means if anything happens to my body and mind and the world around me should not affect me because all of them are Mithya or dreamy stuff or of a lower order of reality. And this becomes more clear the more convinced that I am of the Satyatvam of Brahman. Once Satyatvam of Brahman is very clear, Mithyatvam of my body, mind, and the world becomes a reality. And then it becomes easy to claim Aham Brahmasmi. So, where is the transition? From now, around this time in Vivekachudamani, we have got all the spiritual knowledge. Now, once spiritual knowledge is there, I will be able to say, I have all this knowledge, but I am far from any liberation. Now, there is one more step that we need to do it. And from now on, once this spiritual knowledge has been clearly given to me, and although I know I am Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, but I don't experience that. So this is where Vedantic meditation or Nididhyasanam has a role. Vedantic meditation is a sadhana that helps us from Jnanam to Jnana Nishta, to that day when you can say with all conviction, I have knowledge and now I know that I have always been free. That liberation is not a sadhyam to be achieved. It is not a goal to be achieved. It is a siddha vastu which I have now been able to clearly see. We are now in one of the concluding verses of Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha, and through a wonderful reasoning which Dr. Gautam Divakar will tell us. Over to you, Dr. Divakar.
Thank you, sir. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sorry. In this section, Shankaracharya is talking about Jivatma Paramatma Aikya Vichara. He is doing the in-depth analysis of the Mahavakyam Tattvamasi, which is the Jivatma Paramatma Aikya Vichara. This is the climax of Vivekachudamani, and it is the central teaching of Advaita Vedanta. In the previous verses, it is highlighted that while studying the Mahavakyam, we should not take its superficial meaning, which is the Vachyartha, but focus on the Lakshyartha, which is the implied meaning. If we take the Vachyartha, the superficial meaning of Tattvamasi, it means that the God, Tat Padartha, with superior attributes and the individual Tvam Padartha with the inferior attributes are one and the same. Obviously, this is an absurd correlation. Therefore, we need to take the Lakshyartha, which is the essential nature of the Tat, the God, and Tvam the individual Jiva, and that is the consciousness principle, which is the same in the both. In the next slide, we will see the Guru talks about the process of arriving at this Lakshyartha, and this process is called as Lakshana, which is a technical analysis. Shastras mention three types of Lakshanas: Jahati Lakshana, Ajahati Lakshana, and Ubhaya Lakshana, which is also called as Jahati Ajahati Lakshana or Bhaaga Tyaaga Lakshana. We have seen this briefly in the previous classes. In the next slide, we will see in Jahati Lakshana, we drop the primary meaning and replace it totally with the secondary meaning to arrive at the Lakshyartha. For example, I asked my friend who visited my home, would you like some coffee? He replied, no thanks, I already had 2 cups before coming. If we concentrate on the statement, I already had 2 cups, we know that when he said he already had 2 cups, he meant 2 cups of coffee and not cups by themselves. So we dropped the primary word cup and replaced it with its content, which is coffee, to arrive at the Lakshyartha. In Ajahati Lakshana, the primary word is retained and the implied secondary meaning is added to it. For example, the very same friend says, I don't want coffee, but can you get me some water? I gave him water in a tumbler, although he did not specify that he wanted water in a tumbler. It is implied. So here, along with the primary word water, implied a tumbler is also added. So the primary meaning is not dropped. This is Ajahati Lakshana. Now we go to the third method, Ubhaya Lakshana, which is Jahati Ajahati Lakshana, which is also called as Bhaaga Tyaaga Lakshana. This is the method used for Tattvamasi analysis. Here we retain the primary or the essential meaning and drop the non-essential part. When I say, in the next slide, we will see this. When I say I have eaten a mango, it is understood that I have eaten only the edible pulp, the edible fruit part of it, which is the Lakshana, and we automatically discard the seed in our mind. This is the Bhaaga Tyaaga. And the other commonly used example is the wave and ocean metaphor to explain the oneness in both. We discard the contradictory names and forms of ocean and wave, which is the Bhaaga Tyaaga, and retain the essential principle of the water, which is the Lakshana. In the next slide, you will see a child. The picture taken a few decades ago. This child and the one who is on the right side of the screen talking is the same. Although the physical attributes, the time, space are different, and we discard these opposing differences, we retain the common Lakshana, that is the person in the both sides of the screen is the same. Shankaracharya takes the example of Devadatta to explain this Bhaaga Tyaaga Lakshana application to understand Tattvamasi. Next slide, sir. Let's look at the verse and its meaning. Sa Devadatto yamitiha vaikata viruddha dharmamsham aphasya katyate yatha tata tattvamasi te vakye viruddha dharman ubhayatra hitva. Saha ayam Devadatta. That Devadatta of the past is this Devadatta. Like that child is this person talking. Iti ihava, in this statement, which is made for the sake of recognition, viruddha dharmamsham aphasya, by discarding the contradictory physical features, as the past Devadatta was young and the present Devadatta is the old one, etc. Ekata yatakatyate, we focus on the non-changing aspect of the old and the present Devadatta, which is the person behind this changing physical body. Tata, in the next slide, sir. Similarly, Tattvamasi iti vakye, in the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, Viruddha Dharman Ubhayatra Hitva, there are contradictory superficial differences between Ishvara, the Tat Padartha, with superior attributes, and Jiva, the Tvam Padartha, with the inferior attributes. We have to discard these differences, which is the Bhaaga Tyaaga, like how we automatically discarded the seed in the example of eating a mango, and then hold on to the essential oneness of the Tattvam Asi, which is the Chinmatra, the pure consciousness only. And that is elaborated in the subsequent verses. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Divakar. That was a complete and a brilliant explanation of the verse, bringing a clear understanding of Jiva Brahmaiva Naparaha through Jahati, Ajahati, and Bhaaga Tyaaga. I would still recommend that listen to this audio more than once so that these aspects are very clear in our understanding. We go to the next topic, the next verse by Dr. Asha Naik. Dr. Asha Naik, please.
Om Gurubhyo Namaha. In this final part of teaching of Shankaracharya, he is prescribing Mahavakyam, which is a central theme of Upanishad. The Mahavakyam equates to Atmananda Brahman, popularly known as Tat Tvam Asi. This Tat, creator, Ishwar Brahman, is none other than Tvam, you, yourself, the created individual, the Jiva, that you are the Ishwara, and that is the literal meaning. That means you are the God. Now, the verse goes like this. Samlaksha chinmatrataya sadatmano akhanda bhavo parichete buddhe evam mahavakya shatena katyate brahmatmano ekam akhanda bhava. This implied meaning of first two words, chinmatrataya samadhi. It is the student is in samadhi and he is in chaitanyam and forgotten the body, mind, family, motherhood, fatherhood, husbandhood, and he has dropped himself. He chaitanya. So Shravanam itself is nididhyasnam. Yajnavalika tells Maitreyi that Vachakshanasya tume nididhyasasva. That means you may convert Shravanam into Nididhyasnam because Shravanam becomes Nididhyasnam and able to come to consciousness and completely forget my worldly individuality. Now, the popular example for this is a place between the pot space. The pot space and outside is a total space. They are one and the same. Pot space is not product of a total space, neither it is a part of total space. Space cannot have parts. It is neither product nor a part. There is only one non-dual individual partless space. So Tvam, that is which is inside the body, which is incidental, and Tat, outside creator, which is also incidental, and this Vyavarik Atma and Vyavarik Brahman, if it goes, it becomes Paramartha Atma, which is container, and Paramartha Brahman, which is all-pervading. Gauda Parachara tells about this non-divisibility, that is, na akashastya ghatakasha vikara avayavo yatha naivatman sadagniya vikara avayayo tatha. Meaning, I am neither part of the God nor I am product of the God. I am God, and that is the special meaning. This is what Acharya, this is your real nature, that is what Acharya is telling, and it is non-oneness and non-divisible. So, Nirvana Shatakam, it says, Na mrityum na shanka na me jati veda pita na meva mata na janma na bandhur mitram gurur naiva shishya chidananda rupam shivoham shivoham. All relations are in Vyavarik plane and imperial. Only thing you have to remember is Asanga Chaitanam. Vishwam Pashyati Karya Karanataya Swaswami Sambandha Shishyacharatiya Tathavi Pitruputradhatmana Vedata Swapnani Jagrati Yave Iso Purusha Maya Paribrahmita. So this is what you have to remember, that only thing is Asanga Chaitanya. Now Akhanda Bhava means undivisible, oneness. Swami Paramatmananda has told one practical this thing, is how do you become, don't have to be physically renounced, but quote, you have to reduce only possession, obligation, relationship, and transaction. That way you will get leisure and really peace. Parichayate, this is, you have to understand the meaning. Student registered this meaning. Meaning what? He applies his Viveka and he forgets your Panchamahakosa and remembers that he himself is Buddhe. He is a wise person and qualified person. He believes that Aham Brahmasmi, that fact. So you have understood Buddhe, who is believes that Aham Brahmasmi and registered in his mind with Viveka what Sat Atmano, that is, he is Brahman. When he is listening, he is concentrated and becomes Shravanam, becomes Nididhyasa. So, next slide, sir. Next slide is another Mahavakyam, whatever is said, is Sa Satyasam Purushe Yasya Vidyate Saeka, which is told in Taittiriya. This Ananda, which is obtaining in Manusha, is no other than the Ananda from Hiranyagarbha. Both are seen. In Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, it says, Kshetrajna chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu. That is, a Kshetrajna, the spirit in us, and in all Kshetra, all bodies, the knowledge distinction between Kshetra and Kshetrajna alone is a real knowledge. Katyate. This, if you understand, that is, you are Brahman and Atman, you have understood. Aikya Akhanda Bhava. Here, next slide, sir. He says, Aikya word, you will get confused. You will think that the Jivatma is coming and merging with Ishvara. So instead of that, it is Akhanda Bhava. So this Mahavakya Shatena is 100 times same Mahavakyam is told. Hari Om.
Thank you, madam. That was an excellent presentation on the essence of Mahavakya. That means all the Mahavakyas are same, and you brought in a lot of quotations from the Bhagavad Gita, Taittiriya Upanishad, the Dakshinamurti Stotra to elucidate this point. We are now in the original Vivekachudamani, verse 251. This is what Bhaskar is going to speak, is one of the most important verses of the entire Vivekachudamani. This is one verse that has to be remembered. Mrit karyam sakalam gatadi satatam mrit mantanvevabitam. See, each word of this has to be remembered. What our teacher says is, memorize these words mechanically. Traditionally, this is how these verses are taught. Every word of the verse should be in our mind. And then when the teacher reveals this to us, when we are by ourselves, we do Nidityasanam, because this verse and the next verse that you're going to listen to is the sum and substance of all Vivekachudamani, very beautifully summarized. Over to you, Bhaskar.
Om Gurubhyo Namaha. The verse goes like this. Mrutkaryam sakalam gathadi satatam mrunmatrameva abitaha tadvat sajanitam sadatmatam idam sanmatrameva abilam yasman madhi satah param kimapi tat satyam sa atma swayam tasmat tattvamasi Prashantam amalam brahmatmayam yat param. Well, Adi Shankaracharya, through the essence of this verse of the 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad, reiterates and reinforces the profound Mahavakya Tattvamasi. The sloka imparts through a simplistic Vedic analogy that all the earthenware born out of clay are nothing but clay, and clay alone. Namarupa are many, but the base is clay. In all the 3 periods of time, everywhere and anywhere, it should always be the clay of the earthen part. Tadvat sajanetam sadatmakam idam sanmatreva akhilam. Tadvat meaning in the same way. Idam janitam, which elaborates that the entire cosmos, which includes galaxies and all living beings, Sat janitam, they're all created by Sat or Brahman, which is of the nature of existence. Swami Paramatmananda says that we should include Chit, the consciousness, and Ananda, since happiness is the fundamental truth. Because from happiness, the world evolves. In happiness, the world exists. And into happiness, the world resolves. Well, if you want substance versus attribute relationship for further better understanding, here it is. Existence is consciousness. That is substance. And the world is attribute or mithya. And whereas another similar thing is happiness is substance and the world is attribute, mithya. The Shastra from another perspective indicates that cause-effect methodology to point out that cause is satya and effect is mithya. Now reverting back to the analogy of pot and clay, it is evident that whatever produced like pot, lid, etc. and other accessories are non-separate from the original base, that is clay. Hence, in finality, pot and its products are nothing but clay. Incidentally, someone may ask, what about the space inside the pot? Shastra infers that space is not a product of clay and space is a separate entity. Hence, the question is not pertinent. Proceeding further, Sat Atmakam Idam Sat Matram Eva Akilam. The entire world is nothing but one substance. At this point, you may say that world is not a substance, but whatever, eventually it is actually only Sat, pure existence. In fact, in reality, there's no world. It is just an attribute, nothing but Namarupa. For further explanation, Brahman is like a substance and the world is attribute because world depends on Brahman. Therefore, Sanmatram Eva Akilam. The entire creator is Brahman alone. Moving further, Yasmat Naasti Satah Param Kimapi. Tatah Param. Other than Brahman, the pure existence conscious principle, Kimapi Nasti. There is nothing else. Naturally, the question arises, how do you say, how do you confer, how do you prevail that there is nothing else? This is because Brahman appears like the world with different names and forms. And this name, Rupa, doesn't have any independent existence of its own. Apparently, when you say Nama Asti or Rupa Asti, it is obvious that it is borrowed from Brahman. Hence, Nama Rupa by itself is non-existent. Therefore, Mithya. Brahman Matram Eva. Another verse or the same verse quotes Prashanta Mamalam. Brahmanness is nothing but tranquility and free from any kind of modification. Also Amalam, no impurity from any stain. It is not affected by punya, papa, raga, dvesha, etc. Brahman Advaim Yat Param. Brahman, it's again, he emphasizes very profoundly that I am non-dual. I am the essence behind the entire world, and the world is not separate from me, which is Param, the absolute reality. Shankara says, Brahman is the very basis, and anything else is adhyasa, superimposed. That is attribute, again mithya. And qualities of mithya does not affect satya. So Shastra repeatedly confides saying that you are nothing other than Atma, inferring that other than I, there is nothing. Tat Tvam Asi. Salutations to Adi Shankara for a wonderful insight into this treatise, Vivekachudamani. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Bhaskar, for a nice explanation of a key verse of Vivekachudamani, which I said to understand this verse, one has to study the Chandogya Upanishad 6th chapter, where the teacher is Uddalaka and the student is Shvetaketu. And through the first 18 verses of the Upanishad, where this Tattvamasi Mahavakya comes, where through various examples, the Upanishad says there is only one substance, just like there is only clay in every earthenware, only gold in all golden ornaments. So too, other than Brahman, there is nothing else. That means what is there in me, I am Brahman too. That is why he is able to equate that Mahavakya Tattvamasi. So this is a preparation to study the Upanishads, or if you study the Upanishads, Vivekachudamani becomes very clear. And this is a very key mantra for us to memorize and to know its meaning. We have another similar verse which will be explained to us by Smita Pai. Another very, very important verse, verse number 252 in the original. Over to you, Smita.
Thank you, Doctor. Hari Om. The moment we sleep, then with Nidra Shakti, we project an unreal dream. We not only do project the dream, we lend reality also to the dream. Thus, with borrowed reality, the dream world appears real for the dreamer. But when he wakes up, he realizes he is in fact a waker and not a dreamer. But this he does not know when he is dreaming. In his waking state, he realizes that he is in fact a waker and he alone projected and gave reality to the dream world. We know dreamer's world is projected by the waker. Now the question arises, who projects the waker's world? Here, Swamiji uses a word, Superwaker Ishvara or Brahman. We can use your Superwaker word, the, who projects the waker's unreal world. He also lends reality to the waker's world. With this borrowed reality, the waker's world appears real for the waker. Now, this waker, waking up into superwakerhood, is called spiritual awakening or becoming a jnani. And when an ajnani waker becomes a jnani waker, he realizes that he is not only a waker, but a super waker. Just as dreamer realizes waker, not a dreamer. Thus, the jnani is able to say that with my Maya Shakti, I am projecting this unreal world. I am giving reality to the waker's world and claims he is Ishwaraha Srishti Sthiti Layakarta. Thus, a jnani knows that the world is unreal, is projected, which includes his own body, mind, sense complex, all belong to Mithya Prapancha. The only difference is when the dreamer becomes a waker, the dream disappears. But when the waker becomes a jnani or a super waker, at that time the waker's world does not disappear. So jnani continues to play a double role. For the waker, he is a waker, and for himself and other jnanis, he is a super waker. That is why Lord Krishna says, I am Karta, I am Akarta. This is what is explained in this shloka. The word shloka proper goes like this. Nidra kalpita desha kala vishaya jnatradi sarvam yatha nitya tadvat iha api jagrati jagat swa ajnana karyatvatah yasmat evam idam shariram karana prana aham adi api asat tasmat tattvam asi prashantam amalam brahma advayam yat param. Yatha means just as Nidra Kalpita Desha Kala Vishaya Jnatra Adi Sarvam, just as the entire dream world consisting of space, time, dream beings, objects, experiences, etc. are projected falsely with the help of Nidra Shakti, Tadvad, in the same manner, Tataha Iha Api Jagrati Jagat Nitya, in the waking state, or Jagrata Avastha, this entire universe consisting of Desha, Kala, Vishaya, Jnatra. Jnatra means knower or experienced, etc. are unreal. Swa-ajnana karyatvatah. What does this mean? They are all one's own projections. Remember, this is Nitya for Jnani alone. For an Ajnani, it is real with borrowed reality. Yasmat evam idam sharira karana prana aham adi api asat. When we say entire universe is mithya, we cannot say the world is mithya, but my body is satyam. Because this body also is part of the created world. Therefore, Stula Sharira, Karana, that is sense organs, pranas, ahankara, adi includes karmas, the three karmas, Sanchita karma, Agami karma, Prarabdha karma, Api asat. Api means also, asat means nitya. In short, whatever I experience is nitya. Dream world, dream body mind sense complex is mithya. Waker's world, waker's body mind sense complex is mithya. If everything is mithya and everything is borrowed in reality, then there must be some satyam principle to reality. Adi Shankaracharya ji says everything is mithya, but I, the Sakshi Chaitanya, the changeless experience of everything is satyam. He said, Tasman means therefore. Tattvam Asi, you are that Brahman, the super waker. Therefore, get up, wake up. Why this word is used? In normal sleep, waking up happens triggered by prarabdha karma, but super waking does not happen automatically. In Kathopanishad, a beautiful verse goes like this. Uttishta jagrata prapya varani bodhata. It means arise, awake, having reached the great teachers, realize that Brahman. Therefore, you are the super waker. May you wake up to that nature, that Brahman. And what type of Brahman? Bhaskarji has already explained Prashantam Amalam Brahma Advayam Yat Param, that great Brahman. Tvam Asi means you are that. Thus, the summary of Mandukya Vaitaitya Prakarana and Sadvidya Prakarana of Chandogya Upanishad, Shankaracharya gives in this shloka and concludes the Vedantic teachings in this verse. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Smita, for an explanation of another key verse of Vivekachudamani, which goes like this: Nidra Kalpita Desha Kala Vishaya, and so on. You will know that to explain anything in Vedanta, the most wonderful example is the dream example, because in dream, I am the creator. The whole dream world is created by me. It rests in me. It resolves into me. And Vedantic understanding too is I as consciousness, my eva sakalam jatam, I lend existence, I create this world, I support this world, and this whole world resolves into me. And who is this I? This I is in the last word. Tatmat Tattvamasi, Prashantam Amalam, that non-dual self. Now, this is the summary from the Mandukya Karika, Vaitatya Prakarana, where Gaudapadacharya very clearly tells us, and he gives every sort of reason why this so-called real world is not different from the dream world itself. So with these two verses, so we'll just go to the number of this. So 251 and 252 in the original Vivekachudamani are the sum of one teaching. One section is over. Now, what happens after that? From 252, let us see. We jump to 427. What has happened in between 252 to 427? Now, the teacher has given us spiritual wisdom. The knowledge is there. Now, our job is to meditate on this knowledge. Now, the in-between verses are all verses related to meditation. Once a person does nididhyasana, that as I said, from jnanam to jnana nishta. In the beginning of the class, I told you that I have knowledge, I have Brahma Vidya, but I am not liberated. But now what has happened is, after doing this exercise, the student is now liberated. The student has become a jnani. Now, for him, this knowledge is not a paroksha jnanam. It is not a knowledge given to him by the teacher, it is now his own understanding. It has become an aparoksha jnana. Now he can be on par with the teacher. The student and the teacher are on par. And now we discuss a set of verses where what is the life of a jnani? Sukanya, please explain this verse to us.
Hari Om. This verse enumerates the benefits of self-knowledge. A jnani attains liberation while he is alive. That is Jivan Mukta. Videha Mukti happens after his death. To attain this, after Shravanam, the next sadhanas are Mananam and Nididhyasana, which are explained in this verse. Verse goes like this. Brahmatmano shodhiti yoreka bhava avagahani nirvikalpacha chinmatra vritti pragna iti kathyate. Sustitaso bhavedasya sthiti pragnasa uchyate. Vritti pragna iti kathyate means knowledge in the form of thought modification. What type of thought? Chinmatra cha nirvikalpam. That thought of self-inquiry which is divisionless. Shodhita yoreka bhava. Thought which is refined by the intellect. Avagahani. That thought which grasps. Brahmatmano. Oneness between Jivatma and Paramatma. Sthiti pragnasa uchyate. Such a person is called man of steady wisdom. Wisdom is that when the understanding and experience of the self to be Brahman is without any doubt or imagination, the one who is aware of the awareness principle. According to Swami Param, a jnani who does worldly transactions as a waker and enjoys life as a super waker, two in one, is a Jivan Mukta. He is neither a karta nor a bhokta, but a facilitator. He is called Sthita Prajna Jnana Nishta, who has doubtless and clear knowledge. Sthita Prajna is the one who has internalized Atma Jnanam, and he is naturally established in this knowledge. Vritti is thought modification. What type of thought? Chinmatra nirvikalpa, a thought in which there are two words, aham, brahmasmi. Even though there are two words, it refers to one indivisible, all-pervading consciousness. There is no duality in vritti jnana. Such a knowledge leads to ajnana nivritti and jnana prapti. Swami Vidyaranya says in Panchadashi, Sarva Tattva Mahavakya Aparokshadi Vichara. This vritti jnanam is seeing the all-pervading Chaitanya, Ishvara, and the Chaitanya evident in body-mind complex, Jiva, as one and the same. This is Aikya Bhavana. Shodhita Yoreka Bhava is refining the intellect through three major ways, Shruti, Yukti, and Anubhava. As per Shruti, after negating the Upadhis, for Jiva, the Upadhis are Panchakosha and Avastatraya, and for Ishvara, Maya is the Upadhi. What remains after negating the Upadhis through neti-neti process is the oneness of Jivatma Paramatma, total consciousness. Grasping this knowledge is Prajna. The process of refining is called Bhaaga, Tyaaga, Lakshana, as explained earlier. Now the second line, Sustita Bhavet, steady wisdom. The knowledge thus gained through Shravanam should be steady. So the next step is Mananam, repeated thought process, and Nididhyasanam, assimilation of the knowledge. There are two obstacles to gain this clear knowledge, intellectual doubt and erroneous thinking, Viparita Bhavana. A jnani clears these two obstacles to gain steady wisdom, transformation of cognitive knowledge to intellectual strength, and regulating the sense organs to gain emotional strength. Swami Paramarthananda names these two obstacles as intellectual samsara and emotional samsara. Intellectual samsara is thinking, I'm limited, I'm mortal, I'm individual, identifying with the body-mind complex, limited in time and space. Sense of smallness and fear of mortality is intellectual samsara. This gets cleared through mananam, repeated shravanam of the Mahavakya Vichara. Emotional samsara is a product of intellectual samsara. It's full of raga, dvesha, likes and dislikes, due to which we empower the world to emotionally disturb us. All our emotional upheavals are due to this raga, dvesha. You cannot control the world full of raga, dvesha, but we can definitely control our desires and hatred within us to a certain extent, if not totally, through manonigraha and vairagya. As in Bhagavad Gita, Indriya Sendriya Sathe Raga Dvesho Vyavastitau Tayorna Vashamagachet Tau Hisya Paripandhina. May you not be enslaved by this Raga Dvesha. How do you do this? By converting them to preferences and not depending on the world for happiness. This is highlighted again in Bhagavad Gita. Bahya Sparsheshva Saktatma Vindyatyatmani Yat Sukham. Gnani finds eternal happiness internally. This is Ananta Samatvam. And as a result, he sees all beings alike. Samadukha Sukha Swasta Samalushtashma Kanchana. The glory of Jivan Mukta is elaborated in various verses of Bhagavad Gita. As Tita Prajna in chapter 2, as Parama Bhakta and Advaita Gnani in chapter 12, and as Gunatita in chapter 14. Finally, Krishna glorifies the Gnani with this divine message. Nahi Gnanina Sadrisham Pavitramih Vidyate Tat Swayam Yoga Sansiddhaha Kaleen Atmati Vindati. There is no greater wealth than self-knowledge, which is liberating knowledge and is the highest pursuit of human life. Hari Om. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sukanya, for a nice explanation about who is a Jivan Mukta and how we are able to attain to this state of a Jivan Mukti. The last verse today will be on the same theme by Dr. Vikram, who did. Over to you, Dr. Vikram.
Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Yasya Sthita Bhavet Prajna, Yasya Anando Nirantaraha, Prapancho Visvrita Prayaha, Sa Jivan Mukta Ishyate. So, Yasya Prajna Sthita Bhavet. A Jivan Mukta is one whose wisdom is well established, which means he is freed from both doubt and habitual thinking pattern. Initially, he has to maintain that by regular Nididhyasana. And then frequency of the Nididhyasanam required will become lesser and lesser. Ultimately, he does not require exclusive Nididhyasanam. That state is called Sahaja Samadhi. Sahaja Samadhi means the one who is ever aware of this teaching, his higher nature, which is Brahma Satya Jagan Nitya. Thereafter, he does not require any sadhana. He is a Siddha Purusha. That person is called a Jivan Mukta because firstly, he is free from intellectual samsara. I am feeling small, is not there. I will die soon, feeling is not there. Arrival of old age, disease and death is not a disturbance for him. Yasya Ananda Nirantaraha, the one who has got permanent happiness available for tapping. He taps whenever an occasion requires because different occasion requires different responses. When there is a sad situation, say somebody has lost someone in the family and I visit the family, then I can't say I am Ananda Swarupa. That is inappropriate. Therefore, then Ananda is unmanifest. It is available all the time. But a Gnani, being an individual with all the emotions and feelings intact, he is not a feelingless or rocky person. Where he has to empathize and share others' joy, at that time he will invoke joy. When there is a sad occasion, he empathizes with them, shares their sadness also. He feels their sadness also. Because of that only, he has empathy, sympathy, and compassion. He gives them help also. Therefore, we should know that Gnanam does not destroy the emotion or emotion faculty of the mind. That emotive mind is an asset. We should not lose it. If Gnanam removes that, we should not go after the Gnanam. We should continue to be humane. That is what a Gnani does. He does not even talk about Gnana. Like any other person, he moves around in the world. But once he comes to himself in privacy, he is not an emotional wreck. In privacy, he can invoke Ananda whenever he wants. Therefore, Yasya Ananda Nirantara means he has got Ananda all the time, either in unmanifest form, unevoked form, or in invoked form. Otherwise, if he keeps smiling on all the time, people will think that there is some problem and admit him to a mental hospital. Therefore, he is normal. And Prapancha Visprita Prahaya, the world is almost forgotten. So here, almost forgotten should be properly understood. If he is a Grahastha Gnani, he does not remember family, spouse, and children. That is not the idea. There is no obsession. The world does not occupy the mind, especially the world of likes and dislikes, causing emotional disturbance. When he sits for meditation, if family affairs take the central stage, one cannot meditate. That is called obsession. Vismrita Prayaha means he does not allow the world to occupy the mind all the time and create preoccupation. Therefore, the world is not an object of obsession. Family is not an object of obsession for him. That is why in old age, one can come to Vedanta. Ultimately, this is the one which is permanent. People will come and go. Old way will welcome. Because more time is available, people do not want to contact. Old man means he has got old stories. The moment you ask, how are you? He will start with 1970 when he got employed and goes on and on. Therefore, nobody has time for him. The moment they see him, they run away. That can create loneliness. Swamiji calls it federal problem. FE means fear. What will happen? DE means depression. Why? Because I am not in control of anything, including myself. RE means regret of the past. And L means a sense of loneliness. Because people don't come. All these are no more complaints if one comes to Vedanta. These problems are not there. It is not loneliness, it is aloneness, it is Advaitam. Therefore, Prapancha Visprita Prayaha, he does not worry about people not coming or not talking over phone. When they call, it is fine. They don't call, it is fine. They are busy. Therefore, he does not get obsessed. Saha Jivan Mukta Ishyate. He is considered a Jivan Mukta. Thank you.
Dr. Vikram, for a very nice explanation of the verse, which has spoken about the the nature of a Jivan Mukta, which is ultimately our goal, how we would like to be one. As a recap of the second chapter, the Sthita Prajna portion, the 12th chapter, the Parabhakta, and the 14th chapter also. With that, we come to the end of today's class, and then we will have a little story to meditate. This is a story I heard many years ago, and this is based on one of the dohas of Kabir. Kabir, in one of his dohas, has said, I went in search of God. And I went to Kailash, I could not find. I went to Kaaba, I could not find. And in desperation, because I went to the holiest of all places and I could not find God, then I did one thing. He says, I pretended to be like God. I pretended to be like God. And what he meant to be, that is the whole objective. Now that we have this jnanam, the process of jnanam to jnana nishta is to be able to internalize this understanding. And Kabir's idea is fake it before you make it. You pretend and to live a life as if you are a Jivan Mukta based upon these teachings. What did Kabir do? He said he practiced 4 things in his life. One is to become very silent and aware, to become very, very loving, and to become very celebrative. He discovered that all these 4 things were one and the same. When you go to being very aware, you are also silent, you are also very loving, you are also very celebrative. And when he followed these qualities, something miraculous happened in the mind of Kabir. His need to look for God disappeared. And in fact, he heard a voice of God. Now God came searching for him. He heard a voice from God saying, Kabir, oh, where are you? Oh, Kabir, where are you? Which means once you attain to this understanding, the need to look for God disappears, and now you manifest godliness in you. Now, let us analyze the story. We could analyze it in our own way, but we can analyze the story in the context of Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. That part of Vivekachudamani that we are studying. If you look into ourselves, we will see that we are a combination of body, mind, and Atma. As Atma, we see the glory of Atma, that I have been Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta, I am of the nature of Shivaha, I am Brahman itself. Oh, that is all very wonderful. But as you see yourself as body, mind, we have a date of birth, we have a date of death. And we see limitations and limitations, and therefore the glory of the Atma Tattva is difficult to manifest. As a body, I am always limited. I am bound by my karmas, my prarabdha karma. You will remember a book by R.L. Stevenson, Robert Louis Stevenson, which spoke about, titled as The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Externally, a very benevolent scientist and a great doctor in Dr. Jekyll, but internally so much to hide. When he is able to manipulate and do certain experiments with himself, he transforms into being a terrible person. That means there is the villain, there is the devil in all of us, which is essentially the body mind. Because of our vasanas and because of our prarabdha, we come with certain tendencies which we find it extremely difficult to improve beyond a certain level. But there is also the Dr. Jekyll in me, the Atma Tattva with me, which is anaga, which cannot be contaminated, which cannot be. Uh, After getting Brahma Vidya, we need to acknowledge both these. And we work on what is called ego, removing the ego. Somebody has very nicely said ego represents edging God out. The more I am of my ego, the less God is manifested. The less of ego, more God is manifested. This is a beautiful poem by Rabindranath Tagore, with the concluding line says, "And it shall be my endeavor to reveal thee through my actions, knowing it is thy power that gives me strength to act life of my life." Let this Atma Tattva manifest in me. I know I am limited, but through this conduit of limitations, when I reduce the ego tattva in me, the ego in me, I manifest the divine. And therefore, let us remember the story of Kabir, that if you want to attain, let us fake it before we make it. And what do we fake it? That I am Nityaha, I am Shuddhaha, I am Buddhaha, I am Muktaha. My nature, I am Satyaha, my nature is Shivoham, Shiva Om, Shiva Swarupaha. That is why these verses need to be meditated upon. We need to live these verses so that the ego in us becomes gradually less and we are able to manifest the divine. With that, we come to the end of today's class. Over to you, Venkatesh.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, friends. We have come to the end of today's class. Next week, we will study a few more verses of Vivekachudamani. On Friday, our Bhagavad Gita class will commence with Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Please log in by 6:45 p.m. local time. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om.